Influence does not begin with the title you hold. It begins with the presence you bring. It begins with the presence you bring, the heart you guard, and the trust you build before anyone gives you formal authority. Ready to grow with resilience, clarity, and confidence in leadership, career, and faith? Welcome to The Next Move. I'm Orvin Kimbrough, CEO, author, and founder of The Thriver's Path. I went from foster care to the CEO seat, and here's what I learned. Transformation doesn't start with a title. It starts with your next move. How you reframe your thinking, reclaim your agency, and rename what's possible. If you're done circling and ready to step forward, you're in the right place. Let's make your next move your best move. Welcome back to The Next Move, the podcast where we explore faith, leadership, and personal growth to help you take your next step with purpose and confidence. Folks, I'm your host, Orvin Kimbrough. Today we are talking about influence without authority. Influence without authority. And I believe this is so important at this moment because so many people are trying to lead from places where they don't yet have the title, they don't yet have the seat, the budget, the power, or the permission they think they need. Maybe that's you. Maybe you're the youngest person in the room. Maybe you're new to the organization. Maybe you're carrying lived experience that makes you see things differently. But the system has not yet learned how to value your perspective. Maybe you've been underestimated. Maybe you've been overlooked. Maybe you have more responsibility than authority, and more insight than access, more vision than permission. And if that's where you are, I want to invite you to sit with this thought today. I want to invite you to sit with this thought. Influence does not begin with the title you hold. It begins with the presence you bring. Did you catch that? Influence does not begin with the title you hold. It begins with the presence you bring. Most of us have been taught to think that authority creates leadership. We assume that once we get the promotion, once we get the office, once we get the title, once we get the formal power, people will automatically listen. But life has a way of teaching us something different. Authority may give you permission to make decisions, but influence gives you the ability to move hearts. I hope you caught that. Authority can assign work, but influence can inspire ownership. Authority can demand compliance, Influence can build commitment. And there is a difference. There is a difference between people doing what you ask because they have to and people moving with you because they trust you. There is a difference between being obeyed and being followed. There is a difference between having control and carrying credibility. And for those of us who have had to rise in systems that were not built with us in mind, this lesson matters deeply. Because sometimes you don't get to wait for the system to hand you authority before you begin to lead. Sometimes you have to lead before the title catches up. Sometimes you have to serve before the doors open. Sometimes you have to build credibility in rooms where people are still deciding whether they believe you belong. I know something about that. My path into leadership was not traditional. It's not a traditional path. I didn't come from privilege. I didn't come from a perfectly paved road. I came through foster care. I came through loss. I came through places where survival taught me to pay attention to people, to read the room, to listen for what was not being said. Later in life, when I moved through social services, community development, philanthropy, and then into banking, I learned something additionally important. Influence was not always about having the most formal power in the room. Influence was not always about having the most formal power in the room. Sometimes influence was about being the person who could connect the dots. Sometimes it was about being the person who could hold tension without making it worse. Sometimes it was about being the person who could see the human being beneath the human being beneath the behavior. Sometimes. Sometimes it was about being steady when other people were anxious. And sometimes it was simply about showing people that my motives were grounded. My motives were grounded in something deeper than self advancement. This is why Proverbs 4:23 is such a powerful anchor for this discussion, this podcast. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. That scripture does not say guard your title. It does not say guard your image. Folks, it does not say guard your reputation at all costs. It says, guess what? Guard your heart, because everything flows from there. Your tone flows from there. Your decisions flow from there. Your patience flows from there. Your ambition, well, it flows from there. Your leadership flows from there. And your influence flows from there too. A guarded heart is not a hard heart. That's important. A guarded heart is not cynical. It's not closed. It's not suspicious of everybody. A guarded heart is a heart that has been tended to, a heart that has been examined, a heart that has learned not to let ego drive the car, a heart that can carry ambition without being consumed by it. Because unguarded ambition can turn influence into manipulation. Unguarded insecurity can turn leadership into control. Unguarded pain can turn feedback into attack. Unguarded comparison can turn someone else's success into your threat. Oh, I hope you caught that. I hope you caught that. Unguarded comparison can turn someone else's success into your threat. That's why the inner life matters so much. In the Thriver's Path, we talk about moving from being stuck to being strengthened. And one of the ways we get strengthened is by learning how to lead from the inside out, not from performance, not from proving, not from pretending, but from wholeness. Because when your heart is anchored, your presence changes. You don't have to dominate every room. You don't have to force every outcome. You don't have to make every disagreement personal. You can listen. You can discern. You can speak with clarity. You can disagree without dishonoring. You can advocate without becoming arrogant. You can be ambitious without becoming anxious. Folks, that is influence. And I want to offer a few reflections for the person who is trying to lead without formal authority. The first is this: respect open doors that titles cannot. Respect open doors that titles cannot. Before people follow your ideas, they often need to know how you see them. Do you see them as obstacles? Do you see them as stepping stones? Do you see them as people to be managed, used, or outmaneuvered? Or do you see them as human beings with dignity, pressure, history, and perspective? Respect does not mean you agree with everything. Respect does not mean you shrink your voice. Respect does not mean you ignore dysfunction. Respect means you refuse to treat people as less than human just because you are trying to get somewhere. And in leadership, that matters. People can feel when you are using them. They can feel when you are performing humility. They can feel when you are only interested in them because you need something. But they can also feel when your respect is real, and real respect builds real influence. The second reflection is this: relationship gives your words a place to land. Relationship gives your words a place to land. A lot of people want to make requests before they build relationships. They want alignment before trust. They want cooperation before connection. They want people to move with them before they have taken the time to understand what matters to them. But relationship creates context. Relationship helps people hear your intent. Relationship gives your words a place to land. That does not mean you need to be best friends with everyone. Leadership is not not a popularity contest, but it does mean you have to be intentional. You have to learn people. You have to pay attention. You have to ask better questions. You have to understand what they value. You have to understand what they fear. You have to understand what pressures they are carrying, because the more you understand people, the more wisely you can lead with them, not around them, not over them, with them. The third reflection is this: purpose is stronger than ego. Purpose is stronger than ego. Purpose is stronger than ego. When you don't have authority, it's easy to become consumed with getting credit. You want people to know it was your idea. You want people to recognize your contribution. You want somebody to notice that you are carrying more weight than your title suggests. And let's be honest, recognition matters. It's not wrong to want your contribution to be seen. But if ego becomes the center, influence starts to weaken, because people don't want to follow someone who is always trying to prove they are the smartest person in the room. They want to follow someone who helps the room get wiser. They want to follow someone who can lift the mission above the need to be seen. Folks, they want to follow someone whose leadership is attached to purpose, not just position. That does not mean you disappear. It means you anchor yourself. You remember why you were there. You remember who the work is for. You remember that the goal is not just to win the room. The goal is to move the mission forward. And the fourth reflection is this: consistency builds credibility over time. Consistency builds credibility over time. Consistency builds credibility over time. Influence is not built in one meeting. It is not built in one impressive comment. It is built in. It's not built in one moment when everybody finally notices you. Influence is built through repeated evidence. You show up prepared. You tell the truth. You follow through. You admit what you don't know. You don't overpromise. You do not disappear when things get hard. You stay steady. And over time, people begin to say, I can trust that person, not because you demanded it, but because you demonstrated it. That's how thrivers rise. They rise from the inside out. They reframe the absence of authority as an opportunity to build substance. They reclaim their agency by asking, how can I lead from where I am? And they rename what is possible by understanding that a title may give them a platform, but character gives them the weight. That is the reframe. You are not powerless because you lack authority. You may simply be in a season where God is developing your influence before expanding your platform. You may be in a season where your character is being formed before your title is increased. You may be in a season where your consistency is becoming your calling card. So don't despise the season where you have to lead without being officially in charge. That season can teach you humility. It can teach you patience. It can teach you emotional intelligence. It can teach you how to build trust without relying on control. And when the title finally comes, and it will, you will not have to start building influence from scratch. You already have it. So here is the question I want you to carry with you. Where are you waiting for authority when God may be inviting you to practice influence? Not manipulation, not politics, not performance. Influence, the kind that flows from a guarded heart, the kind that honors people, the kind that builds trust, the kind that elevates purpose, the kind that helps you lead with maturity before anybody hands you a bigger platform. Because your next move may not be about getting more power. It may be about becoming more trustworthy with the influence you already have. And folks, that's leadership. That's growth. That's the work of the Thriver's Path. Before we close, take a moment this week and ask yourself, who needs to experience my leadership differently? Where have I been trying to force an outcome instead of building trust? Where has insecurity been speaking louder than purpose? And what would change if I led from a guarded heart instead of a guarded ego? Your title matters. Your presence matters more. Your role matters, but your character carries weight. And your authority may open a door one day, but your influence is what will help people walk through it with you. So keep growing, keep listening, keep building, keep becoming, because influence does not need a title. It needs maturity. And maturity is formed one faithful next move at a time. Thanks for spending time with me on The Next Move. I hope today's reflection helped you see your situation differently and reminded you that you're not stuck, you're being strengthened. If this episode resonated, share it with someone who's standing at the edge of their next move. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's ahead. For deeper reflections, tools, and guided pathways for growth, visit orvinkimbrough.com and explore the Thriver's Path. Until next time, remember, every small step taken with intention moves you closer to the life and leadership you're becoming. Let's keep moving forward together.